I'm Danielle, and I'm about to take you through a day of my life as I share what I'm learning as a manager. So I'm actually the salesperson for a co-working space and community of entrepreneurs, and even in a pandemic, I'm still very busy, and so I've taken on some interns in the last few months. So about 4 months ago, back in May, I took on a summer intern, and then I had another one lined up for the fall semester, college interns, and they've had very different personality types, so I've definitely learned a lot, and I've kind of figured out what areas I really need to dive into in order to continue to grow as a manager. And someone from my team actually told me that I will be taking over the internship program, so I'll be continuing to learn in this area of just kind of becoming even a mini manager, as I call it, with interns. But I have a clear understanding of what 3 areas I really want to work on mastering that are essential to being a manager, especially with interns. And those are training, delegation, and feedback. So I'll take you through the day and share a bit about each so that you know what I've learned so far. So let's head to work. All right, I'm at work, I'm sipping my coffee, and now we can sit and talk about the first piece, which is training. At the most basic level, you gotta be patient. I mean, my first intern was, I think, 21, and the one I have now is 19 years old, and so if you remember where you were at that stage, like, I could imagine that I would be having some struggles when I was 19 in this role, because it's challenging. And so just, be patient and know that after about a couple of weeks, especially with interns, they'll start to get into the swing of things and it'll start to feel a little more natural to them. But beyond that, there's a couple strategies here. The first is you can kind of train in action in a lot of ways instead of just like setting up blocks of meetings, training on this, training on that. Like, that part is important, but you can also kind of like train in action if you make everything a teachable moment. So as you're going through your day, when a certain email pops up, when you have a conversation with someone that they witness, when, a certain issue arises that a team member lets you know about, explain the situation, explain your thinking behind it, kind of the behind the scenes as the wheels are turning, and then how you're gonna deal with it. Because then they can start to understand, how should I think about this? What am I gonna do about it? And go through their own, method with that once they've really learned how you handle things. So, for example, if there was an email that came in where someone was trying to negotiate with me on an office suite, and I told my intern what I thought about it and what I was gonna do and how I was gonna frame it as I responded. It's helpful to have that full picture, so everything is a teachable moment. Or, dealing with issues. If a member comes up to me and has a problem that came up and the intern is there and I'm explaining it, he could probably actually handle that if someone approached him once he understands what to do. The second piece to training is that you want to think about a slice of what you do to train them on. Now, if you work at a small business or startup, you probably wear a lot of hats, and it's going to be nearly impossible to get them to a certain level with all the different categories of things that you deal with. Especially if they're just a summer intern or an intern for a semester. You really don't have that long, so you want to think about just a slice of your responsibilities and what you want to train them to take on. And that could be something that you don't like as much. It could be a little bit more like operational or concrete, and you think it's easier to take on for them. But you just really want to identify just a piece of the pie of all your responsibilities that you can specifically train them on and they can be a pro at. And as I said, it's going to take some time, but I think if you use everything as a teachable moment and pick out that slice of what you do to train them on, it will make things more efficient and effective. All right, I'm going to answer some emails, but we will catch back up in a few hours. All right, I just hopped in the car to grab myself a salad for lunch, but the second thing you really need to master is delegation, as I said. And nothing can really happen with this until you're willing to let go. I've definitely learned this right away and I'm still working on it. If you've ever had the thoughts, it's easier if I don't have to explain it, it'll be better if I just do it myself, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to step on toes, any of that stuff, then you've definitely felt the pain of not wanting to let go of things and actually delegate them. And you know, maybe it'll be better if you do it because you have more experience than your intern that just started. But usually there's something going on under the surface. It's more about just a need for control. Let's be completely honest. And if you really look into it, if you really ask yourself the question, why aren't I willing to let go of this task? Why aren't I willing to let go of this project? It probably has something to do with control. And this is one of those things where you just learn it by doing it. You learn to let go by just letting go. Actually take the step to delegate and know that it's going to feel uncomfortable. Know that you're going to want to feel like you have control over it when you don't because someone else is doing it. And then you find out it's really not that big of a deal and you just get a little more and a little more comfortable with just letting go of things and letting someone else take the lead. And I'm not like a mega control freak or anything, but I do know that there have been times where I was a little uncomfortable letting things go and I just did it and I've gotten better at it and I'm sure I will continue to get better at it. It's several hours later now. I had to jump into some things at work, but I am home now and changed, and I just wanted to show you the other piece to delegation. I mean, of course, there's that like emotional under the surface side that I just talked about with really letting things go, but there's also a certain delegation system that really has worked for me in managing interns, so I wanted to share that here. So I really like this program, Asana, that I use, and I just created a board for the sales intern and used a list format here. This is a task management tool and it has different styles of displaying things, but I find this list really helpful. And what I do is I create little categories here. So I've got ongoing responsibilities and we've got little steps here so he doesn't forget. And the little plus sign, I just add more notes in the task, like a link, so the docs are all there. Woo. And I've got like all the categories of things. So just the different areas, the different focus areas, and even just like this training tab so that we kind of keep things in categories and it's a little bit easier to digest. And I find that really helpful. And having all these tasks in one place just helps us both keep track of what's going on each day that he comes in. So he's only there for like 2 to max 4 hours a day. And so I want to make sure that the expectations are both clear and reasonable. And so to know what's going on today through this Asana board is super duper helpful. And I'll show you kind of what I do as I delegate something to him. So we've got the category here, and then when I put a task on here and assign it to him, I actually just put his name right here and it sends him an email to notify him, and I can actually put the deadline right next to it so it's clear on when that's prioritized for and what the due date is. And then an additional step that I found really helpful, especially at the beginning, is each time when they get in, you say, okay, so here's what we got on the plan for today, here's these things, and then maybe at first you kind of talk about the order to go through them, and then you kind of leave it up to them, but you're explaining each thing, just making sure that the directions are clear and what you're expecting is clear, and then you let them go do it. And so I feel like progressing into then just assigning it, and hopefully they understand and they can just jump in and go whenever they arrive. That helps to really make the priorities clear and allow them to develop a sense of ownership as they progress in their internship. All right, I think I'm gonna make a little cup of tea and then we will talk about the last point, which is mastering the art of feedback. I really don't know why I picked the 180-degree day in the fall to bring hot tea on the porch, but here we are, so I'm gonna go with it. So I think the third thing that you've really got to master if you want to be a good manager is feedback. This is something that I've definitely learned through experience about over the last few months, and I think I've got a pretty good system going. So what I've been doing over the last few months, which has been super helpful with me and my interns, is I've been holding weekly reviews, and I think to do this in a very particular way is important, and it's actually a way that I learned through my yoga teacher training that I did a couple of years ago. We used a feedback system that was really focused on helping somebody improve and get the most out of each experience, each class that they taught in that case. And the format is important. And so what would happen is a person would teach a class, and it would be to the other people in the training. And then we would sit down afterwards and we're in a little circle, and the person who just taught the class has to answer first, what do you think you did well? So they'd think about, okay, I did this well, the music was good, I had clear cueing, I had a good theme for the class, whatever it was. And then we would go around to the rest of the circle and everyone would say, yeah, I think you did this well, I think you did that well. And then the second question, number two of two, would be, what are your opportunities for growth? And the framing of that is like super duper important. So it's not what did you do wrong or what was bad, it's what are your opportunities for growth? So it's really framed in this like forward thinking way. And first the person who taught the class would go. So it's like they get to cover all the bases first. And then we'd go around the circle. I think your opportunity for growth is holding the poses for longer with the students or something like that. Then, that person would say it, you go around, and so it's this nice sort of like relatively simple way of thinking of what went well. And you, of course, talk about that first because our brain's always ready to jump into what went wrong. So we're thinking, what did I do well? And then the other person shares. And then what are my opportunities for growth? And then the other person shares. So I've held this format with my interns, and so I'm first asking, what do you think you did well this week? And they share, and they have to think from that perspective first, and then I share something as well. They say their opportunities for growth, and then I add on, 1 to 3 as well. And my interns so far have seemed to really like this, and it's a good touch base, and it's consistent enough once a week that things don't slip or you don't forget what you did 3 weeks ago. And when you're going through this process, if you can be both direct and encouraging, I think that's like a killer combo, because you don't want to like dance around, oh, well, I think it was kind of not great when this, I feel like you still need to be direct, which I've definitely worked on, because it's easy to be like, yeah, I think that was fine, get all kind of mousy and shy about it. But you also want to be encouraging, because you want them to learn and feel like it's a safe, learning environment, and they're comfortable making decisions on their own and just learning from that. Reflecting can seriously be a game changer. And we will go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching this video and tagging along for a day as I share what I've learned so far as a new manager, or a mini manager as I've called it, with my new interns. I hope you learned a little something. Clearly, training, delegation, and feedback are huge for me right now in terms of developing as a manager, and I really feel like they're the keys to master as you're learning. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe if you want more videos about career development and personal development, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye!